All right, 0.4b, rational expressions. Now these rational expressions are going to require a bit more thought when working out. Okay, so what are we going to do with this mess here? How are we going to simplify this? Well, I'm going to start off with the numerator, and I'm going to find a common denominator. So I have this, t squared over the square root of t squared plus 1 minus the square root of t squared plus 1. That's simply over 1. Now if I want to find a common denominator, I have to multiply the second fraction by the square root of t squared plus 1. Top and bottom. And then I have the t squared on the bottom here. So then I end up with t squared minus, well, a radical, or square root times the square root results in just being left with the expression. So I'm left with t squared plus 1. And a lot of students forget the parentheses right here. And why is that important? Because you have this negative here, which you're going to have to distribute. So now that's all over the square root of t squared plus 1 all over t squared. Okay, let's simplify this. So I have t squared minus t squared minus 1 over the square root of t squared plus 1 over t squared. Okay, now what am I going to do next? I could put this t squared on the bottom here over 1. What will that allow me to do? Well, let me do a little side note here with a simple example to understand what's going on here. A over b divided by c over d. How would you simplify this complex fraction? We would simply multiply by the reciprocal of the denominator here. And let's see what happens. Okay, now you're just left with one simple fraction. So that's what we're going to do on the bottom here. And also it says the note above here, almost anything multiplied by its reciprocal is 1, except for what? That would be 0, because multiplying by its reciprocal would result in a fraction that's undefined. All right, so going to the next part now, we're going to apply what we just did up here to this problem. We'll multiply the top and bottom by t squared, 1 over t squared. These cancel out. And then I'm left with negative 1 over the square root of t squared plus 1. And I'm just going to throw that t squared in front. And yeah, that's all I really have to do here. Now you could write your answer like this, where typically when you see it in the book, the negative will be right next to the division sign. Alright, so it's negative of 1 over t squared times the square root of t squared plus 1. Done. On to the next example. Alright, so just take these problems step by step. Example 2. Factor the expression by removing the common factor with the smaller exponents. Smaller exponents. Okay. Okay, so between these two expressions, we have this common binomial, but look at their exponents. Which one is smaller? Well, the negative half would be smaller. All right, so this is how this problem works. You're going to have to factor out this binomial with the smaller exponent. So I'm going to factor out 2x minus 1 to the negative half power. Also, in these two terms here, what else do they share in common besides the binomial? Well, I have a 2x, negative 2x here, I have 4x cubed here. That means I could pull out a 2 as well as an x. Alrighty? So then what's left over after I do all this factoring? Well, this times what gives me this? That would be 2x squared times 2x minus 1 to the what power, though? This is the part that students have the most trouble with. Negative a half plus what is going to give me 3 halves. 3 halves. Well, that's simply 4/2. All right, and then this times what gives me this? All right, well, I already have the 2x there. I just need a minus. And then it's going to be, everything's the same. So it's going to be -1, though. Make sure you don't leave that out. That's important. All right, so for the next part we have to take this piece here, and we're going to bring it in the denominator position, which will make the exponent positive. I'm just simplifying everything here. All right, now I bring this piece once again to the bottom. It's to the half power now, positive half power. Okay, what can we do from here? Well, I have 2x on the outside. I'm going to multiply here. So I get, let me go back. I'm just going to distribute this here. So I end up with 4x cubed times 2x minus 1 squared and minus 2x. And over 2x minus 1 to the half power. All right, now for these problems, I mean, you'll look at this and you'll say that's a radical, but they don't want you to rationalize the denominator with these complex problems. All right, at this point, you did as much as you could do. You simplified as much as you could. None of the exponents are negative. Nothing canceled out, so that's all you could do here. We're done. Going on to the next example. Okay, so same thing as the previous example here. I have this negative exponent. All right, these binomials are the same. So in order to get rid of that negative exponent, I have to factor out the binomial with that negative exponent, the smallest exponent. All right, this one has a negative x cubed. This one has a negative 2x. I could factor out a x or negative x, whatever you prefer. Could leave the negative there. All right, so this times what gives me this? It's going to be negative x squared, and that's it. All right, and then this times what gives me this? It's going to be negative 2 times 1 minus x squared. Now here's the tricky part once again for students. Negative 1/2 plus what gives me 1/2. Well, that's simply just going to be 2/2 or 1. So you could put 2/2 here, or you could put 1. All right, so that's the value you're looking for. And then it's all over. All of this is over x to the 4th. All right, once again, I have this negative exponent here. So I'm going to bring it down to the bottom position. And also, before I do that, I'm going to cancel out this x with one of the x's on the bottom here. So on top, I'm left with negative x squared. I can also distribute this here. Minus 2 plus 2x squared all over. I have x cubed times 1 minus x squared to the negative half power. Alrighty, I'm all done with that. Now I have negative x squared plus 2x squared, so I have x squared minus 2 over x cubed times 1 minus x squared to the half power. Now I got to erase this right here. I shouldn't have written negative 1/2. That was the whole reason why we brought it down, to make it positive. Okay, and we can't factor this. There's nothing else we could do here. We can't simplify it any further. So that's your answer. We're done. All right, begin the assignment at the bottom of the webpage.